Everyone, so today we're tackling a topic that I know can sound a little dry. ESG reporting. But stick with me here because I want you to completely reframe how you think about it. Forget boring spreadsheets and compliance docs. Think of it more like a really, really important health checkup for a company.
So let's just jump right in. We've all got a pretty good handle on a company's financial health, right? You look at profits, revenue, maybe the stock price, easy. But is that really the whole story? I mean, beyond the balance sheet, how healthy is a company really? How do we actually measure its impact on the planet, on its own people, or even just its basic integrity? Well, that's the real question we're digging into.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it down. First up, we'll talk about why this whole checkup even matters in the first place. Then, we'll look at how a company actually builds the clinic, to get itself tested. After that, we get into the nitty-gritty, the actual vitals. That's the E, the S, and the G. And to wrap it all up, we'll see what happens after the results are in.
All right, Section 1. Why even bother with this checkup? What's the diagnosis for the modern business world that makes this so critical?
And here's the bottom line. The game has completely changed. Simply turning a profit? Yeah, that's not going to cut it anymore. You've got everyone from big-time investors to everyday customers and even regulators demanding to see the whole picture. They want proof that a company is resilient, that it's ethical, that it's built to last. And that's exactly why this health report is no longer a nice-to-have. It's absolutely essential for building trust.
So, a company decides it needs this checkup. Great, but now what? Well, it needs to prepare. It has to build the clinic, the whole internal structure, and the right tools to actually measure its own health.
And this table perfectly lays out the team of specialists you need. You've got an ESG officer, who's kind of like the head doctor, overseeing the whole thing. Then you have your specialists, the environmental lead, the social lead, and the governance lead. Each one is focused on a different part of the company's health, from its carbon footprint to its ethical policies.
Now, any good clinic needs the right diagnostic tools, right? A doctor's not going to use a stethoscope to check for a broken bone. It's the same idea here. Companies need to pick a standardized framework to work from. You've got things like the GRI, or the Global Reporting Initiative, or SASB, the Sustainability Accounting Standards Board. You can think of these as the X-ray machines or the MRIs of the corporate world. They provide a clear, standardized, recognized way to measure everything and report back on it.
All right, let's get into the specifics, starting with the E. We are now officially in the examination room, and we're taking the first set of readings, the environmental vitals. This is all about measuring a company's real-world impact on our planet.
So, what are we actually measuring here? It's pretty simple, really. Environmental metrics are just the data points that tell us how a company is interacting with the natural world. It's the hard data behind their environmental footprint.
And what's so great about this is how specific these vitals get. We start with the total energy the company uses, measured in kilowatt hours. Then we see what percentage of that energy is coming from renewables. And then we check its carbon intensity. That's how much CO2 it emits for every single rupee of revenue it makes. It's like checking your temperature, heart rate, and blood pressure all at once. It gives you a really complete picture. But the checkup doesn't stop there. We're also looking at total water usage. A critical issue in so many parts of the world. And we measure waste management. What percentage of the company's trash is actually being recycled or reused instead of just getting dumped in a landfill? Each one of these metrics helps build a much clearer diagnosis of the company's environmental health.
Out of all of these environmental vitals, there is one that gets a ton of attention, and for very good reason: greenhouse gas emissions. So let's just zoom in and focus on this one for a minute.
Now, I know this can look a little complicated with all the scopes, but it's actually pretty straightforward when you break it down. Scope 1, that's the stuff the company makes itself. Think smoke coming out of a factory they own. Simple. Scope 2 is for the energy they buy, so the emissions from the power plant that provides their electricity. And then there's Scope 3, which is basically everything else. It's the whole supply chain, from raw materials all the way to you using their product. It's the only way to get a truly complete picture of their carbon footprint. And how do we actually measure all this? Well, the standard unit is tons of CO2 equivalent. It's a handy little unit that lets us bundle all the different greenhouse gases into one single comparable number. It gives us that clear final reading for the health chart.
Okay, so we've looked at the planet. But a truly healthy company isn't just about environmental impact. It's also about its people and its processes. So let's dive into the S and the G, social and governance.
So these metrics, they're like checking the company's pulse when it comes to people. How does it treat its employees? How does it engage with the community? And then for governance, we're really looking at its immune system, the internal rules and ethics that keep it from getting sick with things like corruption or just plain bad decision-making.
A perfect example of a social vital is workforce diversity. This chart gives us a quick visual breakdown. And you might be asking, why does this matter? Well, a diverse workforce is often seen as way more innovative, more resilient, and better reflects its customer base. All signs of a healthy organization that's truly ready for the future.
And the social checkup goes even deeper. We're measuring employee engagement. And this isn't just some nice-to-have metric. It's a huge predictor of productivity and whether people stick around. We track health and safety incidents because, let's be honest, a company's #1 job is to keep its people safe. And we look at training hours. Is the company actually investing in its people? These are the real indicators of a company's character.
All right, on to the G, governance. This is the company's ethical backbone. We're measuring things like board independence. That's the percentage of directors who aren't also executives. This is so crucial for preventing groupthink and making sure there's real oversight. We also check on anti-corruption training because a single scandal can absolutely destroy a company's reputation. And of course, data privacy compliance, which in today's world is just a fundamental sign of respect for your customers. These are the rules that keep the whole system trustworthy.
And check this out. This is where the rubber really meets the road. We're seeing companies link a significant chunk of their executives' pay, in this case, a full 25%, directly to how they score on these ESG metrics. Now that is putting your money where your mouth is, isn't it? It sends a massive signal that this whole health checkup isn't just for show. They are taking it very, very seriously.
Okay, so we've collected all this data, the checkup is officially done. But just like with your own health, the tests are pretty much useless without that follow-up appointment, right? The one where you actually discuss the results and make a plan.
And this is basically that follow-up process. It all starts with gathering the data we've been talking about. Then it gets reviewed internally, and often it's verified by an outside agency just to make sure it's accurate. And finally, it's all disclosed to the public in reports or on the company's website. This whole process is what makes the results transparent and trustworthy.
And ultimately, it all boils down to this one single question that every leadership team really needs to ask themselves. Have we done enough? Are our measurements solid? Are we being totally honest about how we're performing? This is that final moment of truth right after the checkup.
And that leaves us with one final thought to take away. Now that you've seen what a real corporate health checkup looks like, what's going through your mind? Think about the companies that are part of your life, the one you work for, the places you shop, the stocks you might own. If you could see their report card, what do you think it would say?